Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode here. As you know, we're picking the brains and picking the expertise of people in the business community to hopefully share a tool or a tip to help you get through this period. Very, very fortunate to have someone who's an expert in the social media space. This person is an advocate for small businesses, small medium businesses, especially here on the Central Coast. He's also a family man. He's also the director and the head of strategy for his own company, Missing Links Social Media. Please, guys, welcome Perry Henderson.
Woohoo! And the crowd goes wild. Thanks, mate.
Mate, I'll do double hand fist pump.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Mate, look, I want to thank you first of all for just coming on and sharing your expertise, because as you know, there's more eyeballs online these days. But before we get into it, mate, I would love for you to take a moment just to share your background and your expertise with everyone out there.
Sure. So my background is, I'll go back to my academic background, because I guess that's where really it started. So studied locally here on the Central Coast at the University of Newcastle, the Central Coast campus, and then basically completed a Bachelor of Business in there. I majored in marketing, and that wrapped up in 2012. And during that time, there really wasn't a lot of academic education around social media marketing. It was actually only in and the industry itself was still young. In 2012, that's the year Facebook launched mobile ads. So you think about where we're at right now. Not only was the academic education lacking in Australia, but it was only just really becoming a thing to the point where you could start advertising through Facebook on mobile, which is crucial. Most of the success we have now is through mobile, obviously. So I found it imperative to go beyond what was available. So I went and studied abroad at Michigan State University over in the USA, and that's where I studied social media marketing, more or less where it all began. And they really gave me a lot of fundamental knowledge that gave me a really strong foundation to start building my own systems and processes and strategies and tactics for the businesses that I was helping. I was also on the tools in that at that point in my life, I was also a DJ, which is good fun through uni and all the rest of it. But I was also working at the DJ agency as a social media manager, looking after about 12 different venues, social media pages, mainly Facebook. And so, that was a good fun. And took that knowledge, and then at the end of 2012, started on my business plan, and got my ABN and launched my business at the end of 2012, just straight away, pretty much. Yeah.
Hey, that's amazing. I guess what was really impressive there, that you saw this new marketplace opening up, and instead of just sitting on your laurels and saying, hey, there's nothing available here, you took the initiative to actually not just go interstate, but go international. To ensure that you have what was required to get ahead in this field. That's awesome. Kudos to you, mate.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, it just seemed like common sense at the time, but I didn't know it can be hard enough starting a business, right? But just being able to say that I went over there to study that, it gave me, like I said, a really strong foundation that I think really contributed to the business growth, because anyone can say they can do anything. And I guess that's where, if anything, having a bit of paper, so to speak, can give you a little bit of credibility, especially in something that's so young. Obviously it's the results that matter, but it was a good thing to kind of raise people's eyebrows when I started doing networking, when I started out my business, for sure.
Mate, that's awesome. And you're right. It's people can say things and think about it and plan it, but you've actually got to do it, and you jumped on that plane.
Yeah.
Mate, as you know, the whole COVID scenario it's not just here in Australia, but it's taken over worldwide. And we're fortunate enough here in Australia that we haven't been as impacted health-wise as some of the other countries in the world. But part of that is the government have put in some restrictions and regulations in place to maintain the spread. And for a while, stopping the curve, flattening the curve was a big thing. But as a result of those regulations, there's been a lot of restrictions imposed on businesses. So a lot of businesses have been impacted, and what we've noticed now is that a lot more eyeballs are now moving on to the business into the online space. We've been forced to do that. Being a social media expert yourself, what are some trends that you've noticed around businesses and social media?
Yeah, as you said, marketing is all about getting in front of the right people, getting eyeballs, getting attention. And so with so many more people jumping online, it has meant that there is a great opportunity to be reaching a broader audience. And also in a lot of cases, we've seen the CPM, or the cost per thousand impressions, drop. So, with more of an opportunity of a greater audience, that's kind of the competition isn't as fierce, and I think that's impacted the CPM, which has helped. But the problem is, as you alluded to, that some businesses are struggling more than others because their customers have stopped buying. And so even if it's cheaper to do paid advertising, how much paid advertising do you do if the customers aren't going to buy? And so that's, I guess, where the strategy needs to shift. In some cases, some of our clients have paused, understandably, because they've had to cut wages, they've had to cut everything because their customers have stopped buying. In other cases, some of our clients have sold so much product that they've run out of stock, so they've had to pause. Some of our clients are, in between there, and they've stuck around, which is great. But at the same time, we've had we actually had our best month of sales ever last month for new recurring clients. So despite about half of our clients pausing, things are really picking up. It's funny. It's a complete contrast, right? But I think people are getting the message that they do need to not be forgotten during this period. So it's more about needing to be smarter than ever about where you're investing your time and your money with regards to business, and in particular marketing, because you don't want to be forgotten. So a lot of the strategies that we've been recommending has been more about, okay, well, maybe it's not a good time to push your product, but maybe it is a good opportunity to build your email database, to get in people who aren't ready to buy yet. How can you add value to them through your content, through downloadable resources, so that when the momentum does pick up, you're ahead of your competitors. And I think that's something that people need to be conscious of, is you shouldn't just be thinking about what you're doing. You also need to be mindful of what your market is doing in terms of the consumer behavior. But it's not necessarily the best option just to cut off all communication. It's about being smart and strategic, looking at how you can leverage organically without having to pay through your email database, through social media content, through perhaps online networking, things like this, where you can be smart about not having to pay. It is your time, obviously. But then at the same time, for example, it makes perfect sense that if you spend an hour putting together a post or a video, and you only have 150 people that are following you on Facebook and Instagram, who are your friends and family, maybe a couple of clients in there, are you really justifying the time it's taking you to create that piece of content if the only people seeing it are the 5% of people that are following your page, and those people are existing customers or just friends and family, right? So then it's about, well, if I'm going to spend the time creating this content, maybe I should promote it to my target audience. And that really does justify it. And that's what I mean about being a bit more strategic, not freezing all your marketing. If consumers aren't buying, that doesn't mean that you can't talk to them. You just need to be strategic about how you do.
Oh, mate, I think it's so valid what you said there, and I think that all comes back to understanding your market right now, and understanding. We always talk about knowing your ideal client, your avatar, all that kind of stuff, but people think of it in terms of just pushing. How can you best push your product to them? It's also right now you have to understand what their needs are. You think about how you can support them through this time. Because if they feel supported by you, then that mutual feeling will only be reciprocated once they come out the other side of this. So it's an opportunity to be a leader and throw your arms around people and hey, just even simply, hey, how are you going? What can I do to help you? That front.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the messaging has moved a bit from survival to let's prepare for COVID recovery and beyond. So it's very much about I feel like we're through the thick of it, and so your messaging does need to adjust a bit based on that. And you touched on some tools and some things that might be able to help people as well. And I'm going to talk specifically about social media because that's obviously our niche and what I know back to front. There is a great opportunity for you to build that momentum, as I said, but I guess getting more into the tools and the technology that can support that is, I like to talk about audiences that you can target through paid advertising on social media in 3 different categories. There's a cold audience, which is an audience that's never heard about you before. It's the first time you're reaching them, basically. And then there's a warm audience, which is people who have engaged with your content in some way. And then there's a hot audience, which I refer to as people that have visited your website or you have their contact details. And so if you think about those 3 stages as perhaps like a customer journey of building awareness, driving interest in your solutions, and then trying to actually get them to buy, then you can start to break up the messaging around how you can add value to people at each of those 3 stages. And so the tools that Facebook and subsequently Instagram gives you to feed information to where people are in the customer journey is what I'd recommend is for the cold audience, creating a campaign that is there to just build that know, like, trust factor, to position you as an authority, to give without asking, because strategically, that anyone who engages with your content, like, comment, share, click, or anyone who watches more than 3 seconds of a video, they then fall into your warm audience. And so you can build what Facebook calls is a custom audience of people who have watched more than 3 seconds of your video or have engaged with your content. And so that's where now we have not knowing about us to, okay, we know these people have engaged with this in some way. And then your focus needs to consider that on average people, I went to last year, I saw Kerwin Ray and a few other guys present, Grant Cardone and Gary Vaynerchuk in Sydney. I saw him do a presentation and Kerwin Ray said something like, in 2020, you need to reach people like 22 times or 20 times before they'll buy. And that's just a generalized statement, right? But it still paints this picture of a lot of people make the mistake of just having a cold audience, just constantly blasting out. And that cold audience might be 1 million people, right? They might think, every male and female in Sydney, age between X and Y. And that might be 1.2 million people. And they're reaching a drop in the ocean there. So how are you going to reach the same person 20 times if over a year you reach 20,000 people and once, what I mean? So you don't have that opportunity to build that ongoing relationship where you can continue to nurture and build trust, which is especially important for people like yourself and me who are in professional services. We're not selling people a toothbrush that they can have an impulse decision on. It does take a long time for someone to take up the services of an advisor such as yourself, business coach, however you frame it, someone who provides consultation to help businesses grow, looking at the business holistically. And then for me, it's the same thing. Like, they may not know, we need to take them from that unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence, now knowing what they don't know, and then building trust and everything that's attached to that. So you do need to be strategic about the audiences you're building and the messaging you're putting in front of people. So cold audience, haven't heard about us. Warm audience, we've got them. They're a custom audience of people who've been watching our videos. So then we can start to feed them more information, and we can really expedite the process of building trust and relationships with these people by assuring that we have a designated audience there that we're promoting our content to. And then when that's a relatively decent size, when you feel like you've been adding value there, you can then build another campaign that is trying to push people to the next stage of your customer journey. And that might be downloading a free resource, a guide, a checklist, something, and then you've got them via email. You can hit them through that marketing channel as well. But again, you're giving them something of value. You're demonstrating your expertise. You're starting to introduce them to your services or your product and how you can help them, right? The outcomes of what you do. And then you've either got them setting them to your website, checking out your blogs or your services, or whatever it might be, or downloading a resource. And then, as I mentioned, then they're a hot audience, right? They've been exposed to your solution. And so then you can think about ways to get them to take the next step, which generally what works really well is an offer. And that could be a strategy session. That could be buy one, get one free. That could be free cheese board when you stay at our hotel, something there for new customers, just to hook them into taking the next step. And so I think that really starts to paint a picture of how social media marketing is more dynamic than doing a bunch of posts because you feel like you should. And it's more dynamic than just boosting a post from your page timeline, because where we've seen success for ourselves and our clients is understanding the tools that are there to really speak to where people are in their customer journey and continually add value, and that's where a lot of people will go wrong, is they'll just either just be purely organic and just do posts and fingers crossed that one day I'm going to have a big audience that's going to buy from me without doing any paid advertising, because they're not valuing their time enough to put some advertising budget behind it. Or they're doing paid advertising and they don't have a campaign structure that's moving people through a customer journey and adding value along that. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, definitely, man. What you said there, essentially, that's what a funnel is, and you're guiding them through. So, and people think, and not to degrade people, but they think a funnel, couple of posts, I'll get them in, slide down. There's actually so much more work that needs to go into it, a lot more consideration, and as you said, strategy to ensure you can get them moving through it, not just not like you said, fingers crossed, put a post, fingers crossed, which is very important. Every direction, everything you do needs to have a purpose and an intent, and you have to be clear on what particular part of what you're saying there, hot, cold, warm, or hot, or the funnel that you're feeding into as well, mate. Really, mate, that was so good, I have to say.
Good.
Thank you for sharing.
I try not to get too technical because there's a lot of jargon that I could throw in there, but I try to keep it simple. You know what I mean? And that's why we've built this system, as I mentioned there, to try to speak plain language to people, because the next step is to not just understand it, but to start, for anyone who's in our audience, if you go to my YouTube channel, I actually have tutorials on how you can build these audiences. So just look for Mr. Nick Social Media on YouTube. And it's the first 4 videos, which I did like 3 years ago, maybe even longer. And then I've got a bunch of other cool stuff in there as well. But, the next step is also to be not just doing it, but make sure that you know how to judge success.
Yes.
Because if you don't know how to judge success, then you'll constantly be throwing money at something, not really understanding what you're getting in return, and therefore not being confident that what you're doing is contributing to your business growth. And no, nothing happens in business until somebody sells something, and nobody sells something until somebody knows about you.
Yes.
And so it's this whole idea of the more people in your target audience that know about you, it's inevitable that will lead to success, as a general rule. But then there's shortcuts to that by
Yes.
using things like I just said. And so an interesting conversation that we have with clients and common questions that I have is like, what are your targets? What are your KPIs? And often it's very easy for people to just try to judge us by the bottom line, the revenue that they're getting, which is fair enough at a certain point. But, you need to understand that because we're not having campaigns that are directly reaching people for the first time, just trying to get them to buy. In some cases, we do with promotions and stuff like that. But generally speaking, especially for service-based companies, you need to judge the success of your paid advertising and generally on social media independently on awareness metrics, engagement metrics, and then conversion metrics. Because if you've got a campaign structure whereby you're a startup business and you know that you need to invest in building your brand awareness, otherwise you're just going to be reaching people being like, hey, we're really good, do you want to use us? And it's like, you're not adding value to anyone. So it makes complete sense to have campaigns there that are optimizing to just get you the cheapest video view or the cheapest engagement, you know what I mean? Because that's what you really, really need. And so if, 60% of your advertising budget is going to driving video views and engagement, and then you've got 30%, which is there to kind of retarget people who are engaging and sending to your website, and then 10%, which is there to retarget your website traffic, then you can't just judge all of that by how many leads did we get, because 60% of your effort is going to just brand awareness. And so you're winning if you're getting brand awareness. So judge that as that. And then if you got traffic, look at your CPC and all that sort of stuff, but understand that that's where you're just introducing people to your business and your solution. So judge that by cost per click, and you can look at the quality of your traffic through Google Analytics and stuff, and then look at the bottom of the funnel again if we're talking services by how many leads did we get, what's the quality of those leads, but don't just wrap the whole thing up as what's the cost per lead and is it better than Google ads, because each marketing channel has its own strengths.
It's so true. It's comparing chalk and cheese, apples and oranges, and I'm just going to take a moment just to elaborate on that as well, because look, and this is for business in general, you have to have, as you said, like a benchmark or a goal, or know what your successful criteria for success is, because otherwise you're just plodding along and you're not really knowing if you're gaining traction or not. However, if you do have that KPI or that numerical target that you want to aim for, you can gauge what you're doing, you can measure it, and then you can also get the feedback from it so that you can adapt or adjust if required.
Exactly.
And that's the key thing, because as we all know, success is not a straight line. We've all seen those, all those memes and images that, the squiggly line to get to success. Part of that is being able to read what's happening, gain the feedback, trust your gut instinct if it's working or not, but then also adapting to make it work, and that is definitely key, especially in social media. What I've seen regularly, what people ask me a lot regularly is, hey, what type of post what should my marketing be? I said, we'll try it. Let's hit the brief. Let's work it all out. But then let's gain the engagement. Let's gain the feedback from it, so we know what's actually working for you. So we can put out more of what's working for you.
Yeah, and it's not, the problem with that is it's not fun. Well, I'm someone who it's much more fun creating than it is reviewing analytically. And I think a lot of people are in that boat. It's very easy to get caught up in creating content without prioritizing time to review how things are performing and then making recommendations based on that. And that's where a lot of businesses who initially don't really see the the value in that for as part of what they're paying us for.
Yeah.
But then when we come back at the end of the month and spend an hour with them online, guiding them through what has worked, what hasn't worked, our recommendations for social media and beyond social media in terms of sales process and website and whatever else it is, and how social media should be working alongside their other marketing channels, they really start to see the value then. Because, I touched on Google ads versus social media, and when you think it's easy to blend them together because they're both digital marketing.
Yes.
And it's hard for business owners who wear so many hats. I think marketing is probably one of the hardest places to know where to spend your time and your money. But it's one of the most crucial because that's the only way you're going to grow, whether that's word of mouth, looking how you can do that better, whether that's strategic partnerships, how you can do that better, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, SEO, website conversion rate optimization, whatever it is. How does a business owner get on top of all of that? I don't know. I was there, trying to do it all. But that's where, business owners, how much of you should be a marketer as opposed to operations, people, finance and accounting, all the other areas of business, right? So you have a finite amount of time that you can invest. And so where I'm going with this is that's where we come into the picture, and I'm not pushing myself here. Like, as a business owner, I'm not learning Google ads. I have someone else doing my Google ads because that's not my forte. I'm fortunate enough to work in marketing for social media, so I can do my own. But I probably wouldn't I wouldn't, especially now knowing how much I know about it, how much time and effort it takes to make it work and be profitable. I would be leaning on specialists for that. It's and so I have total respect for marketing individually through different channels and using different specialists for that, because it can be very easy for business owners and for potentially freelancers or digital marketing companies who kind of put their hand up to do everything, to not really have a true understanding of the different roles and what makes them different. For example, with Google ads, you think about the mindset of people in Google ads. They're either doing research for a solution or they're wanting to buy a solution. You think about people who are on social media, believe it or not, they're not on there to see our product. They're on there to feel entertained and feel connected. And then we're interrupting them with ads. And so you think about the two different mindsets there. You can't judge Google ads and social media right next to each other because you're reaching people at different stages in their customer journey. And if you just try to do the same on each, then you're not leveraging them. You're not leveraging social media for its greatest opportunity, which is to reach people before they need you. You don't have to just be doing Google ads and be one of 5 tabs in someone's window, you, competitor A, B, C, D, and then think which has the best website, and then it's up to your website. It's not even your services or it's up to your website, your salesman, your 24/7 salesman to do the conversion. But you've got this amazing opportunity to reach, Chet Holmes wrote a book, Ultimate Sales Machine. And in it, he says that, 3% of people are actually 3% of your potential customers, not everyone you're reaching, but your actual potential customers, 3% are ready to buy right now. And so the other 97%, 7% are open to buying, but not interested. So that's, you've got 7% who are open to buying, but they're not proactively looking right now. And so you think about that, 90% of people, potential customers, aren't ready for your solution right now. So why are you pushing that in front of people in all places on social media when they're not even on there to be seeing your product in the first place? And so the idea is, how do you add value to people and start to build a relationship? And a lot of that comes down to adding value. And the value doesn't always have to be education. Sometimes the value can be a story. It can be an insight to your personal brand. It doesn't always, a real estate agent doesn't always have to create content about what the market is doing. maybe he could create content about what his morning routine is and how that helps him get focused. Maybe he could do a video about how he's juggling his work-life balance at the moment and post that on LinkedIn. And so maybe he could do something that's entertaining, making someone smile. You know, what's the return on investment of making someone in your target audience smile? It might not be financial, but it's building that know, like, trust factor, and people know that you need to like someone to do business with them. And so it can make perfect sense to do something that adds value that isn't necessarily education, and gauge the return on your investment, not as financially, but, you know, that's where that's actually real people who are commenting and engaging. And so it's much more dynamic is where I'm going with this. And it's over time, I've been able to build up the confidence to have these conversations and educate people around the roles that we play and how you need to measure success, to the point where I can confidently dig my heels in and say, I know that this is what needs to happen for you and your business on social media for it to work. I'll do everything I can to make it work, but you've got to believe me, you know?
Yeah, mate. And, you know, it comes down to you having the runs on the board, the experience, and all that kind of stuff as well. And I'm really glad you brought up the Chet Holmes book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, because I too have read it, and I'm glad you brought up the educational component there, because a lot of people, like that book in particular, focuses on, you know, giving value through education, that kind of stuff. But you're right, you can give value beyond just educating, you know. Little insights into how you operate daily. It's still education, but, you know, people think education as formal education, facts, figures, stats. It can go way beyond that, you know. And someone may get such an insight from showing your morning routine or showing how you plan your day, you know. Like, for example, one thing that I think I've shared previously from that book with my clients and audience is the touch it once rule, you know, to help my day be more effective. If I you know, whenever something comes up, I think to myself, what can I do to just touch it once? I'll come back to it later, you know. In regards to business in general, what are, you know, you've mentioned that you've been fortunate enough to continue to be successful through this period and to be operating as per program. What are some things that you've done for your business or even for yourself in regards to mindset or how you frame things to help you through this tricky COVID period?
Yeah, well, I guess first of all, I'm blessed to not be in an industry that has been absolutely hammered. You know, recreational activities and hospitality and gyms, you know, they've been doing pumps. So I take my hat off to them. I think they're the real pioneers and the real people that deserve to get all the credit. I think for myself, it hasn't been as difficult, right? Only that some of our clients who have been impacted, subsequently, we have also been impacted. But we're basically, I'm back in the office now, as you can see. We're, you know, pretty well operational, right? We've still got, you know, one of my team's on leave, and other ones, his daughter goes back next week. So it's just about homeschooling and stuff like that at the moment, and then Bo's back in now. So we're doing pretty well in terms of where we're at now. Obviously, being on top of the government incentives was a big help, despite how confusing they managed to make things. They make it seem so simple, but then when you go through, you're like, whoa, where is this? What is this? How do I do this? It's I don't know how something can seem so simple but be so hard. But at the same time, you know, that's been a help. In terms of mindset, I mean, I've been pretty blessed again to have faced a decent amount of adversity, like everyone, man. Everyone has their own story to tell, and for me, that story was, you know, my brother passing away in 2016, and he had an ongoing battle with a disease called neurofibromatosis type 2, which is where benign tumors grew all through his central nervous system. And so that was a decade-long battle that he was in and out of surgeries for. And what he went through, I mean, how can I have a horrible day when, to the point that I feel like giving up when he never gave up through what he did. And so that has always been a great contrast and a great perspective for me to carry with me. And when you couple that with a gratitude mindset of taking some time out to be thankful for the things in life that we have, and they say the best things in life are free, that doesn't really resonate with me. What resonates with me more is putting it in the way of, often you can feel a bit disheartened by what you need to be investing financially into your business, or you may not be getting the traction that you want personally, right? I'd love a house. We don't have a house yet.
Yeah.
It's just my reality. I put everything into the business, right? And we'll get there when the timing's right. But thinking about, and now I'm trying to remember the quote, so I'm just going to have to paraphrase it. But it's something like, to feel wealthy, think about all the good things in your life that money can't buy. And for me, for some reason, that resonated more than the other way to put it, because, you think about people who have all the money in the world, but they may not have a good relationship to the people that they're coming home to, because they can't prioritize the time to build on that relationship. And then some hard decisions need to be made about work-life balance and money versus relationships and all of that, and so I really value and take time out to be grateful that I've got now 3 beautiful kids, a beautiful supportive wife, a boisterous dog that barks a little bit too much. Unfortunately, though, he's the kind of 6th wheel in the scenario. I should walk him more than I do. It's difficult with a newborn, but let's not go down that path. Yeah, exactly. I know. It's all on me. But it's this whole idea of, probably having been able to be exposed to some adversity like that and some other things that went on. When I started my business, when we were in startup, my girlfriend, now wife, fell pregnant, right? So I had a decision to make. I had a full-time opportunity to stick with the DJ agency I was at and do that and get a phone in a car and a full-time work, or follow my dream of building my business. And I took the opportunity of the latter and lost a lot of sleep, worked my guts out, borrowed some money, made it happen. And so it's been an interesting journey along the way. But, I will say, though, something that you're constantly learning, right? I'm constantly learning. I'll never know everything. And it's always the more you learn you don't know. And that can be said about everything in life, including your own personal development. It's something for me, I realized that, and I'll be honest here, man, because I want to add real value to the people we're talking with. The other day, I went and took the bins out, as you do. And I looked up at the sky and thought, what a beautiful place we live. And then my eyes started watering, and I was like, why are my eyes watering? And it's like in a way that is not good. Like it wasn't like happy tears. I was like, and then I sat down at the front of the house and I just had a bit of a think and a bit of reflection and took some time out. And I was like, I'm feeling this way because I don't get out enough. And I'm in a pretty interesting chapter in my life at the moment. We've got COVID happening. We've got, our 3rd child is now 6 weeks old, man. My wife has had some post-birth complications, which has meant that I've had to pick up her role in the house on top of her business. That is impacted, and everything else. And I was like, and so where I'm going with this is I guess that moment of reflection enabled me to understand what was going on with me mentally. And then I went inside and after we put the kids to bed, I explained what happened with my wife, and then we came up with a solution that was, me journaling more, because I think that was a physical way of my mind, body, soul, whatever you want to call it, telling me like, come on, man, like if you're taking the bins out and your eyes are watering because you're not being outside enough and enjoying nature and appreciating these things, then, maybe you should get out of your garage, where you're not seeing any natural light, slogging away through the day because you can't go into the office because of COVID. You're like, so journaled and then came up with some ideas. I created a page in my journal and I titled it, Trust You, It's Worth It. Because I started writing down things that I knew would bring me true happiness. that initially I wouldn't feel like prioritizing, like walking the dog. But then I wrote next to it the outcomes of what that would mean to me and others. And I started walking the dog again more regularly because I'd call my dad and touch base with my dad. So not only am I not feeling guilty about not walking the dog, but I can call my dad, who's in a pretty isolated environment at the moment and is facing some mental challenges of his own, right? And so now I have a plan of attack there. So, you talk about mindset. I think one of the biggest things that you can do is be self-aware of when you are feeling overwhelmed in life, and try to, break it down, and then look at systems and behaviors and habits that you can pick up, that you can remind yourself to be consistent of, so that you can try to be proactive of not taking the bins out and your eyes watering.
Yeah, mate. There's so much there in what you shared, man. And thank you for sharing all of that, because
Sure.
that's the reality. That's the reality of being in business and working for yourself, as well as trying to balance family duties and life duties and everything else, mate.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And for me, like I really resonated when you said it's about gratitude. Because at the end of the day, for me, I'm a first generation refugee,
Okay.
So my
Yeah.
parents fled Vietnam, at the end of
Yeah.
the war,
Wow.
so they had to jump on a boat, a cramped boat, overcrowded boat, fled in the middle of
Yeah.
the night, going, no map, no light, no guidance, 3 days
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the ocean, and ended up in a refugee camp in Hong Kong, so leaving everyone behind, leaving their family behind, the small village, what was their life essentially, and
Yeah.
traveling minor possessions. And so and this is a conversation I have with my wife and everyone else, that at the end of the day, the sacrifices we make now, or the challenges we face now, pale in comparison to what my parents went through. And I can only speak from my perspective, you know. So for me, that goes, look, if they can survive that, if they went through that, like that's extreme hardship. What we have now is minute, so that's easy for me to process and develop a way to go forward. Because for them, I told myself, if for them, if their only solution for a better life was to leave the country and risk their life,
Yeah.
what's it going to take me if I'm having a cash flow issue? What's it going to take for me to bring in more cash, bring in more
Yeah.
clients? So
Yeah.
perspective plays a key role. And as you said, so is gratitude. I am forever grateful that they took that risk to come over here.
Yeah.
Then I'm just looking out my window now. It's a clear, blue, beautiful, sunny day. I can see trees. I live, we live on the coast, beautiful part of the country,
Yeah.
not many people have that luxury,
Yeah.
we get work for ourselves and to be able to spend time with our families,
Yeah.
yeah, not many people have that luxury. So it comes down to gratitude, but reflection is key, but reflection in a way to improve or to move forward, not just reflection
Yeah.
like, oh man, I'm such a dumbass,
Yeah.
because
Or
you
just
can
being
get down
stuck
to
in a
yourself.
place of sorrow or feeling bad for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's where that trust you it's worth it page came into play, because I wanted it to progress into something,
Yeah,
that was actionable. Yeah.
most
Yeah, for
definitely.
sure. I will just add to that as well. Another learning that I've had, and where I was going with the personal research and development, I guess, and consistently learning more about myself and how to better deal with environments and situations, is that, through everything that happened with my brother, I realized that I was kind of deflecting things that were affecting me, because I was like, oh man, it's really tough right now. But my brother had it harder. Oh man, like this
Yeah,
is really, really, and oh, but my brother, and and I wasn't taking the time out to realize that, well, this is my reality,
yeah,
and everyone has their own reality, and not only just it's their story, but there will always be
yeah,
someone worse off than you, always. And I don't think that necessarily mean that it's a ticket to not taking time to reflect and think about how things are impacting you, because and things can happen, man. Like sometimes things affect you more than they should and you don't know why. um, So you need to take a bit of time out to actually understand that, rather than just thinking, oh, well, someone's got it worse than me, because then it can impact your behavior in other ways. You might be snappy with your staff or your team or your partner or something. You're like, and they might say, like, why, what's going on? Why are you upset? Oh, no reason. But it's because you didn't take time out to actually process what's going on, and giving yourself permission to take time out from a life that is chaotic is something that can help you be proactive with. And whether that's through meditation or journaling, or if something is affecting you, just being conscious of it, separating yourself from the environment, or at least realizing that, man, that really affected me more than I think it should have. I need to make sure that I take some time to reflect on that, so that it doesn't come up later or again in the same situation where you may not deal with it as well. So that was just a recent learning for me. And I think that tied into, like I said, I was perhaps bottling things up and not giving myself time to process, because I was almost like substituting my ability to process something with either too much gratitude or someone's got it worse than me, without actually processing it. So that's just a really interesting thing that I've come across for myself lately.
Yeah, and mate, and so one thing I do with my clients is I get them to write their name down. I get them to write family, the word, so just 3 words: their name, family, and business. And I go, which one is the number 1 priority right now? And more often than not, they say business. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you are your business, and you have to be able to prioritize yourself to ensure that you're operating as best as you can, not only for your business, but for your family as well, and your other relationships. So people forget that. People put themselves last, and it's no one's fault. It's just that we get caught up in our lives.
Of course.
And that's one thing I urge everyone in this. And this is why we're talking about it. I urge everyone to somehow make yourself a priority. It might not be natural, but you have to, because the best analogy is when you hear that, when you're on a plane. We can't go on planes now, but when you're on a plane, and they give you the walkthrough, when the oxygen mask comes down, who do you put it on first? You've got to put it on yourself first, so that you can help others. And this is the same in life. You got to look after yourself, so that you're able to support your family, look after your family, and then facilitate the growth of your business and your professional career and whatever else it is. Mate, look, mate, we covered a whole heap of things there, mate. I really, really enjoyed that conversation. It was so
a
good.
bit of a journey, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate.
From social media marketing to mindset. Yeah, I had a lot of fun for that. With that, rather. Yeah.
Mate, if people wanted to reach out and ask you a question, or just pick your brain on social media, on digital marketing, what would be the best channels or avenues to get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, first of all, you can learn. I'd love for people to connect with me on LinkedIn. First of all, I'm relatively regular with the content that I post there, so you can keep updated with what I'm doing, how we're helping people. We were in a full day video shoot yesterday with another local Central Coast business. I did a little update about that. Things like that, I think it's great to connect and be involved in the local business community, so people can hit me there. If you want to learn more about our services and how we help people, you can visit the website, missinglinksocialmedia.com.au. And there's also an option there. There's a tab that says free services, and then you can click on social media campaign planning. And essentially anyone has the option to lock in a 30-minute session with myself, where we jump online together and share screens and review what they're doing with their social media marketing, where the gaps and opportunities are. And then I can leave them with a plan of attack to do it themselves. Or if they realize how much opportunity there is and they don't have the time to do it, then we can look at building them out a custom solution. But it all does very much come from a place of, I just don't want people to continue wasting their time and money on social media, because so many people do it wrong and don't know why it works. So the very least I can do is give 30 minutes of my day to someone who it will save them 100 hours if I just tell them, don't do this, do that, and it might be one sentence. And so that is there to help people, for sure. Right. So that's a few ways that people can I guess take advantage of what I have to offer to help.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your insights, your stories, your life, and mate, I hope you have plenty of sleep coming up with the newborn, and
One day.
one day. And mate, we'll definitely catch up once we're allowed to soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah, I look forward to it. Have another lunch at that cafe or something. I think it was
Sounds like
pretty good. Thanks so
mate,
much.
mate. Thanks. Have a great day, mate.
Thank you. Talk soon.